What's going on, people? Welcome back to the Get It Bucket podcast with your guy, Chris LeBron, off the ball pod. Also joined by my guy, as always, Kev. Kev, what's going on, bro?
Man, I'm glad to be back, man. It's early February. March is right around the corner. That's my favorite time of the year. College, conference plays in full swing. It's been in full swing, but it's getting down to them grimy hours where teams are finally starting to put it together and starting to build their resume out. But I'm good, man. All is good. I can't complain. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. My squad didn't take care of business down at Chapel Hill, but we'll get into that and all that. We'll talk about our squads. We'll talk about, like I said, we are in February. I mean, February is, just the first week of February, almost in the books. We're getting close to March. We're seeing teams midway through conference play. We're kind of seeing who's real, who's pretenders. I remember I had people talking to me, just talking about college bad, like, oh, this team started off so good. Why they, now they're looking, suspect. Is like, well, that's why you don't always judge a team before conference play. Because we know,
Mhm.
Kev, how there's a lot of cupcakes and a lot of teams looking good to fluff up that schedule. And listen, shout out, some of these teams benefited, and some teams that we might have thought looked suspect, where we didn't believe that record, kind of proven us wrong, and playing good, and some have, you know, uh, shown why, they fluffed that schedule up because they're not as good as we think. So we'll get into it. And one of those teams that kind of had an easy, non-conference schedule and all that, and it's really, a team that, had a high-profile player last year, Gigi Jackson, and there was a lot of criticism, especially with his play and just the team, surrounding him, that he was surrounded by, and they showed flashes. They had Michi Johnson, and all that, who's I thought was is a good player and all that, but obviously that team was structured around Gigi and all that. And sometimes it's tough to have, when you don't have that many great players and you have a player like Gigi who was a top player and all that, coming out of high school. It's kind of tough to evaluate and all that. But this year, like I said, cupcake schedule to start up, but they got some good wins and all that. But they had really showed out. They had some really good wins late. They beat Tennessee, they beat Kentucky, an improved Georgia team and all that. And that is the South Carolina Gamecocks led by Lamont Paris, So they're sitting at 19-3 right now. They're up against, Mississippi. They're a top 15 ranked team too in the country. I don't remember the
Finally.
last I don't remember the last time they were even ranked. They had a team. Like, I know they had a squad when they had what's his face as coach, Frank, what was his name, Frank Martin, right?
Yep.
Yeah, when he was there, they had, they went to the Final Four. They beat my Blue Devils too
Hmm.
in that year too. But then they fell off again. But the Gamecocks, Lamont, he seems like he's got this team playing just really good basketball on both ends. So what's been the recipe for success this year for South Carolina?
Man, they just have a complete team. I mean, when you look at not even just a complete team, but they got an experienced team.
Yeah.
Some of their best players are either seniors or graduate students, right?
Hmm.
You look at Talon Cooper, he has been hooping,
Yeah, he's
right? He
open.
is the goods, right? You got Josh Gray down there. You got BJ Mack, who was actually one of the last players to play for Steve Smith, the legendary coach at Oak Hill. He was at University of South Florida. Shout out to Amir Abdul Rahim. The Bulls are doing really good down there in Tampa
Hmm.
this year, by the way, too. But he was down there, came over this year. And of course, you already mentioned Michi Johnson, started his career off at Ohio State, where didn't really find his footing, couldn't really find his footing under Chris Holtman and them, but transferred over, like you said, last year, and he's made a way for him now. And they just play a good brand of basketball, bro. Like when you look at it, you already mentioned it, but going into Tennessee and winning at Thompson Bowling Arena is like SEC fans know that's damn near impossible to do. It's one of those venues, like if you're a fan of an opposing team in the same conference, it's hard as hell. Like for instance, as a Big Ten fan, it's damn near impossible to go into Mackey Arena and beat Purdue, right? It's hard. And they went in there and handled them. They went down to Georgia too. Like Georgia, they're a decent team, but some teams have lost down there and they've played in really close games down there too. And they beat them kind of handily the other day too. So they just play a great brand of basketball. They're unselfish, and most importantly, they play defense and they rebound tough as hell. And you got to give Lamont Paris a lot of credit because let's be honest, you're at South Carolina. In the
Hmm.
SEC, that's a bottom tier school. With all due respect to the people out there in South Carolina, that's a bottom tier SEC school. And in year two, he's making a lot of noise. I know a lot of people weren't really a fan of his coming over from UT Chattanooga, but he's maximizing his opportunity. And this team is not only a NCAA tournament team, but they look like they can get to the second weekend at least, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, and they do it on a defensive end too. Offense still a work in progress, but to do it on a defensive side of the ball and all that, and they're top quarter in a lot of defensive metrics and all that. So they're playing hard for him. And what's this year 2 for him there?
Yep.
Like you said, this is South Carolina basketball. So like this is a tough ass job. This is not an easy job. Like you said, one of the bottom tier jobs in the SEC, and has this team looking like they're going to be a tournament team. Like I said, they're up right now against Ole Miss. That's a team that's kind of been, in top 25 and all that, and has a good record too. And they look like they might take care of business, and like some good wins. Tennessee, Kentucky, and improved. Like I said, Georgia before. They do. They've come a long way. Where it's the bottom tier, team usually, and then Lamont's got them going in the right direction. So that's positive. That's really good. And like I said, they got good players. They got some good players. They found, like I said, they're a veteran team, and we know how veteran teams come March can sneak up on you, and suddenly they're in the Sweet 16 or something like that. So that wouldn't shock me at all. And so Lamont's doing a great job there. Like I said, he's up right now as we're talking against Mississippi, and they got 10 games left in conference play and all that. If they split, they're marching. They're going to March. They'll be playing in March. So for sure. So it's definitely been fun to see them and all that. So shout out to Lamont for getting the job done and just having a lot of success early on. Because like I said, this is a tough ass job, and usually it takes you a little bit to get it going, but he's got them going and all that. So we'll see what happens with South Carolina. But another team I mentioned, I talked to you. I was like, we got to talk more about this team. And that's the Iowa State. Iowa State, they have just defensively, they're menaces. They are menaces. They lock you up. They had a tough loss against Baylor. That was a tough game and all that. But Kansas, they took care of Kansas, TCU recently and all that. They have looked really good, and it keeps feeling like they always get slept on. And then you're like, they're top 15 and all that. So talk to me about Iowa State and just what do you expect from this the rest of the season, and can they do some damage come March?
For sure. And in the summer last year, this was a team that I was super high on, and I feel like a lot of people were sleeping on because TJ Otzelberger has a history of doing more with less, like more than any coach in the country. And when you look at this team, it's a whole bunch of transfers and there's a whole bunch of guys that have been in the program, right? You bring back Taman Lipsey, who's from Ames. He's a sophomore, solid, steady point guard. Doesn't do any one thing great, but he does a lot of things really well, especially defend, right? You got Trey King. You got Hassan Ward. My favorite players are Milan Momcilovic. I believe it's how you pronounce his last name.
I'm glad you said it because I've been trying to figure out how to say bro's name for 2 weeks because he's on my list of like guys that if he comes out of the draft, he gonna
probably right because he's a 6'8" forward, 6'8" forward, and he kind of has the Dirk skill set, right? He's not the most athletic, but when it comes to just fadeaway shots, he knows how to play off 2 feet. He can get into the paint. He stretches the floor out. You can do pick and rolls. You can do pick and
40% 3-point shooter.
Come on now, knockdown shooter, right? So you look at the game versus Houston. If y'all didn't get a chance to watch it, he hit a game winner on Houston where I think they probably had like less than 2 seconds on the clock. Ball was getting inbound off the baseline. He just caught it and shot a fadeaway, knocked it down. And I'm like, oh yeah, he's ready. Especially
that was a dog fight too, because that was like in the 50s.
Yeah. And again, Hilton Coliseum, they call it Hilton Magic, is just like how I talked about Tennessee's arena and how I talked about Purdue and Mackey Arena. It's one of the toughest environments. It might be the toughest environment up there with Fog Island Fieldhouse, of course, in the Big 12. And when you look at Iowa State, again, you got Milan, and then my favorite player is Keyshawn Gilbert. And shout out to my guy EJ Harkless. He played with him last year at UNLV under Kevin Kruger, Lon Kruger's son. And Keyshawn Gilbert's from St. Louis, just a dog, right? He just knows how to score. He locks up. He defends at a super, super high level. He gets active in the passing lanes. He can score from all 3 levels. And he just knows how to play the game the right way. You look at Curtis Jones. He was at Buffalo. I know Buffalo hasn't had that much success since they lost Bobby Hurley and Nate Oates, but Curtis Jones is from Minnesota. He's had a lot of success there in his high school career. And again, they just have a lot of dudes that, one, know how to defend. Their defense travels. Like Houston, like Tennessee, their defense, wherever venue they're at, is going to give them a shot at any given game. Today, they're playing at Texas against the Longhorns. I think they might win that game. I think they have a great chance at winning that game. And to me, again, when you play a defense like that, the offense it comes easier. It just naturally your offense gets better because you're playing off your defense. And so they create a lot of turnovers. And TJ Otzelberger, man, he's one of the more underrated head coaches in the country, in my opinion. So salute to him. And the Cyclones are definitely a dangerous team in the Big 12 this year, and definitely in the country once they get to the tournament.
Yeah, and they're battle tested too. I mean, we talk about the Big 12 all the time. I mean, it's a dogfight. Like, they were a dogfight with Baylor last game. That was a really fun game to watch and all that. But they're defensively, they can lock you up. They're damn near number one in almost a lot of major defensive categories and all that. And that travels, and they can shoot the ball well enough. So, they could win in many ways. They could win. They could slug you out in the 50s and all that, like they did with Houston, or they could win some high-scoring games and all that. So they're definitely going to be a team come March that's going to be real dangerous and all that. Before we get into, we're going to talk about a conference, next. Just talk to me. Who's just been disappointed for you? Who just see like, damn, like I thought we're gonna see more from this team. Just who you feeling? Because I was just going through. I was like, oh man, I was just looking through some teams. I'm like, oh man, yeah, I thought they're gonna be better. So I'm just getting you. I want to just get your thoughts on who just has been disappointing for you.
I could definitely throw my own team in there, but we're gonna talk about that later, of course. They're definitely
we'll save that for later. Yeah,
yeah. So I'll go. I mean, I gotta go UCLA, right? Just because. I know a lot of people weren't high on them just because, again, you lost Tiger Campbell, you lost Jaime Jaquez, you lost Jalen Clark, you lost a lot of talent, Amari Bailey, the list goes on, right? So
yeah,
the average basketball fan expected them to take a step back, but nobody expected them to be this bad, right? I don't think this bad. Like right now, it's a dumpster fire. Like it feels like Mick Cronin, ever since they lost at Cal State Northridge, when Mick Cronin came out and complained about lack of NIL resources, it's just been a snowball effect that's gotten worse and worse over time. And that's probably actually, I was gonna say they're number one, but I mean, you already know. I'm pretty sure this is why you asked the question. It's Arkansas, bro. Like, my guy. This one pains me because y'all know I rock with the Must Bus, and a lot of people,
me too, man.
A lot of people think that he's overrated and things like this because his teams usually struggle around January, December because they're putting so many moving pieces together because their team is 99% built through the transfer portal. And then usually around this time, his past few years since he's been there, now's the time they start to pick it up. But this team doesn't have it. Like this team just does not have it. And again, this goes back to my point that when you're living and dying with the transfer portal, you have to be very specific on the type of guys that you're getting. It's not just about does he fit into the roster, but it's about does he come from a winning program. For instance, I hate to name guys, but let's just be honest. He grabbed L. Ellis, who averaged 17 points at Louisville last year, a Louisville team that won 4 games last season. What did you really expect for him to come from Louisville, where he was at a bottom-tier ACC team, to go to the SEC, where the expectation is to at least get to the Sweet 16? You know what I'm saying? And so that one just it really frustrates me because, again, it's not just about the guys. It's about how can you make these pieces work together. And the thing about this team is, outside of Layden Blocker, who's a true freshman, he hasn't really earned Muss's trust, but I do think he's going to be a foundational piece for Arkansas basketball for the next few years. They don't have a true point guard. And the thing that hurts me the most is like Tremont Mark feels like it's the only dude that goes out every single night and lays it on the floor. And I love Tremont Mark. If Tremont Mark was still on Houston right now, oh my gosh, that team probably wins a national championship. Let's be honest, right? He's 100%. Killing. He's killing. And it's like, damn, I feel bad for him because he's just out there fighting for his life, and it's like nobody else wants to help him. And I know, Trayvon Brazil's been dealing with some injuries. He's kind of been in and out the rotation because of those injuries. And then Mekhi Mitchell, you seen it was a clip of him and Muss got into it a couple of games ago versus LSU. And I'm just like, bro, I don't know. And then on top of that, you got the rumors about off the court stuff, which I'm not even going to get into because that's just crazy talk in my opinion. But on top of that, you got the rumors about Muss potentially leaving for Louisville. And I'm like, oh my God. It's like they can't get it together.
I think he's taking it too. I think he goes.
I think he's definitely up high on the list. I think he's probably behind a couple guys, but I think he's definitely a candidate. But still, it's just Arkansas is easily number one, bro. They just it's a disaster. And to finish off with this, I kind of sensed they were gonna have a season like this because again, to me, if I'm a coach, I still want to get guys out of the high school rankings, and I want to build my program around those guys getting older. And then whatever pieces that aren't filled, that's where you go into the transfer portal and you fill your weaknesses with. That's how you should use the portal. But when you're consistently every single year, you're trying to bring your best player out of the portal, it's it's not 1% type of thing, but it's rare. Like obviously you have Dalton Connect. Obviously you have AJ Store. You got guys like that, but those guys are like a dime a dozen. They're not just out there like that. You know what I'm saying? So to
Mhm.
me, Muss has to get guys like Devontae Devo Davis, another guy who stepped away from the program for a couple games. He's back now. So I'm like, they just got so many issues. You can't even count. So we're gonna see how it lasts and how it how it plays into this
It's,
spring/summer.
it's bad, man. It's bad. I mean, we knew they had weaknesses. It's kind of been like a lot of must teams with the perimeter shooting and all that. But you figured, all right, they'll make up because Trayvon's coming back. They got a bunch of guys, who played good minutes last year and all that. They got Khalif Battle, all these guys, and it's just last week when it happened with the whole incident, yelling at the coach, I was like, oh man, they hit rock bottom, man. They hit rock bottom, and that's what happened. When you lose, things just get crazy and all that, and getting the ass kicked by LSU, that seems like it's like, oh yeah, it's over the season. The season's a wrap, and it's unfortunate because they went through their struggles last year at the Maui, but then they figured it out because talent. They had so much talent and all that, and even with the lack of perimeter shooting, they had enough pros to get it done. This year, they're just not the case. And like you said, there's a lot more distractions. Like you said, what happened on the court, with yelling at the coach, the whole back and forth. And then now, coach might dip, so now there's a lot more distractions. And then so it's like, you're 2-7 in league play, unless you have a showing in the SEC tournament and you win the whole damn thing, it's a wrap. So yeah, that's what I mentioned because Arkansas, that one is definitely, that's one's definitely tough. I was gonna say Miami too, but I still think Miami has I think if they win enough down the stretch and have a decent showing in the ACC tournament, that they'll get it, and then they'll figure it out and all that because I still like their team, even though some of the things I worried about preseason is kind of showing, but
Yeah.
I still think they're good enough to get it done, and get to the tournament.
They'll have a chance. My only concern with them is that I think with this season, like the past few years between Jordan Miller and Isaiah Wong, they had an explosive enough offense to where it could kind of cover up their lack of defensive inefficiencies. This
Mhm.
year, I don't really think they have that. Like they have a lot of scores. Like Keyshawn Jordan going to be a problem, by the way. The freshman, the 6'7" freshman,
He
he's
might
nice.
be a top 10 pick, bro.
Yeah, he's
I
nice.
know
Give him some
a
time.
lot of guys are like him a lot.
He's a player. But again, you watch last night, they put up 38 points at Virginia.
Oh, bro,
And
they
I
had
was like,
16 points. They had 16 points at the end of the first half.
and,
I thought I was watching Virginia play basketball. I
and
was like,
again,
hold up. That was nasty work.
and
That's
some of that
nasty
you got to
work.
give credit to Virginia's defense, right? But at the same time, like, come on, bro, let's be a little bit realistic here. So
Yeah, I
again, I
thought
just think this year, kind of when you lose great players like that, again, you're coming off 2 years ago, you were in the Elite Eight. Last year, you get to your first Final Four, and then again, you lose one of your greatest players in the history of your program, in Isaiah Wong, and an all-time role player in Jordan Miller. And I just feel like they don't really have those same pieces this year. And again, it's a lot of buckets on that team between Pack, between Amir, between Poplar,
Luka.
between
Yeah,
George. Like
I don't
you
get it.
got, yeah, you got guys, but it's just it's funky right now. And the AC and being in the ACC, it doesn't do you any favors, right? Because the AC's down, and so it's
Exactly.
tough.
And you just lost. You just scored 38 points to Virginia. So it's like, and losing, they got what losses to Florida State. I mean, they got some couple close losses, but those are games. I mean, you lost to Louisville. So like
That's a dagger.
that's bad. Losing to, they lost to Wake in overtime. Even though Wake's improved and all that, that's a game you should have won and all that. Like Virginia, sometimes Virginia looks like Virginia, but scoring 38 points still is damn. Like I know Virginia's defense is good, but you can't score 38 points, especially when you have a good offense too. Like, and Syracuse is up and down, so you can't lose games like that. So that could hurt them. And like I said, the ACC's down, and you were supposed to be that team, and it was supposed to be you, UNC, Duke. So in a down year for the ACC, a really down year for the ACC. Like it's not good. The ACC, it's kind of below the conference that we're going to talk about next. I think it's that bad. It's not good. So I think they'll figure it out. So I don't want to put them there yet, but if we're talking about the end of the, when we do our end of the season, talks, and we're talking about disappointing teams, I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about Miami, especially if it's like, they have to win the ACC tournament together, because that's bad. If you have to win the ACC to get in, then that's tough. But they can do it though, and then we wouldn't be surprised if they make a run, because they have the pieces. They have the pieces. They got Final Four type players, but they're not there yet.
And let me run one more by you.
Mm-hmm.
In the city, man, it's USC, bro. And first of all, let me shout out to Juju Watkins. Yeah. First of all,
she's saving USC.
Big shout out to Juju Watkins.
Hey, she needs to be in the league. And you know what's crazy? Right. Gilbert Arenas mentioned this today. He's like, she got to stay in college for 3 more years. She's dropping 28 now. Why does she have to wait? Because now she's going to get college. She's going to get in that college. You know how it is. You stay in college too long and you just systemize.
Yep.
She's going to get systemized. And by the time she's ready to be in the WNBA, her shine might not be as hot. And then let her go to the league now. Because if you're the W, you need her. Especially with Caitlin coming in. All that you need. Caitlin should have been in last year.
Yeah, for real.
I know that the women are different and all that. Hey, this sometimes is exception to the rules. Be like, yo, Juju, you're the only one allowed to come out. Everybody else, you stay in. You come, because she's different.
One of one.
Different. Like she's actually like one of the more popular just college basketball players. Period. Forget men, women. No, she might be more popular than a lot of the dudes. Some guys probably know more about Juju than anyone in the college basketball. Maybe Zach Edey because he's a big motherfucker. But everybody else, you're like, I don't really know. I know the team is good. You may know Houston's good or UConn's good, but I don't know who that guy is. But with Juju, she's special. And I'm sure you see, because you right there. So you see it all the time. And I'm sure you've seen her in high school too, hooping and all that.
She was at Sierra Canyon going stupid, but again, big shout out to her, because she dropped 50 against a top 5 team in the country, but on the road, by the way, on 26 shots, by the way, too. But getting back to the original point, the men's side is, and I already told y'all, I've already been down this road. I've never been a fan of Andy Enfield, bro. I just never have. He's been there for a decade, and
it's a wrap.
I just don't see the vision, bro. And again, I give him a tiny bit of grace this year, just because they haven't had Isaiah Collier. Boogie Ellis was hurt for a couple games, but he's back now. But at the same time, again, you knew what you were getting into, right? You brought in Bronny, which you already know is going to give you all the attention in the world. You bring in Isaiah Collier, who was the number 1 point guard in the class of 2023. You bring back Boogie Ellis, who's a 5th-year senior this year. And I think they might have maybe 3-4 wins in the Pac-12 right now. We're in the beginning of February.
They just lost 7 in a row before they won against Oregon State. That don't really count too. You beat Oregon State.
Exactly.
Oregon State don't even have a conference to play in next year.
Exactly. So I'm like, man, bro, it's bad. Yeah. It can't get, if it gets worse than this, bro, you can't, you're in LA.
And I was just about to ask you, you're in LA. So you would figure you should be able to recruit all the Cali kids. Why do you think USC has issues like this? Why they continue to struggle? Maybe have a good year here and there, but why do you think they continue to have these issues? Because it's like you in LA, right? And like I said, you know more about it than I, because you in Cali and all that. And we all know Cali has hoopers.
Yeah.
We have elite hoopers. So and they're right in your backyard. You are still USC.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it an issue that they can't find the right pieces to and have a competitive team year in, year out? Because sometimes it doesn't make sense.
If I'm being honest about this, is my number 1 issue with Andy Enfield, is that he doesn't develop his teams defensively. Like, I always feel like that should be the backbone of your program, right? Because if you can play defense, like I mentioned earlier, offense is going to be much, much easier, right? Because you can get stops, you can get into the flow of things. Offense is fun. Defense is all about effort and communication, right? And you look at the best dudes that Andy Enfield has brought into his program, they already had defensive principles instilled in them before they got to SC. You look at Jordan McLaughlin, he was elite as a defender at Etowanda. You look at Evan Mobley, elite defender at Rancho down there in Temecula, Rancho Christian. I can go down the list. You look at Jonah Matthews, all these guys, D'Anthony Melton, all these guys had defensive. They had defense. The reason D'Anthony Melton's in the league right now, why is because he plays defense and he can knock down shots, right? These guys all played tough defense before they got to SC, and they made Enfield look good. It wasn't the other way around. The reason people are dropping, the reason people are dropping Isaiah Collier on draft boards right now is because of what? His lack of effort on the defensive end. Isaiah Collier has never been known as a defensive guy. So he should have gone to a school where they could got him right defensively, because now he's dropping because of that. And again, Evan Mobley, you never had that problem because why? Evan Mobley is a damn near generational defender, right? So that's always been my biggest thing is that, yes, if you love to play offense, Andy Enfield is going to let you just play. The offense is all just, it's free ball, it's whatever. They don't even get that many passes, and it's a whole bunch of isolation, which I hate too, by the way. But regardless, they don't have defense and they don't have toughness. And I hate to say that, but they just don't. That's why I knew when we played them in the tournament last year, I was like, I'm not worried about these dudes. Why? Because we play with an entirely different physicality that they haven't seen in the Pac-12 before. And so I'm over it. I'm just like, bro, this is, again, it's one thing if you're like a whatever team, but this team is terrible. Like, and I feel bad for Bronny. I feel bad for Boogie Ellis in his last season in college. I feel bad for Isaiah Collier in a sense too. So, because he did not put the necessary piece around these dudes. And again, I understand you're at SC, it's a private school. You got to have great grades to get into there. I get it. But you could assemble majority of your roster just from the city and you're going to be fine. You're going to be competitive. Why? Because they're going to have that pride because they're from the city. But at the same time, Andy Enfield it hasn't clicked with them like that. And so, I mean, if you're the athletic director, I forget her name, but I know it's a woman. I don't know how you walk into the Big Ten with this as your coach, because you're about to see a whole different level of physicality next year going to the Big Ten. Believe that.
They're going to Big Ten next year. So, like, it's like you said, it's different physicality and all that. And just looking at, since he came over from Dunk City in Florida Gulf Coast, missed the tournament, first round exit, second round exit, missed the tournament, COVID, so that don't count. Elite Eight, first round loss. I mean, he's had enough time. He's had 10 years. That's long enough. That's 10 years. And listen, most coaches at big time schools like that, after year 5, 4, it's a wrap. So it just feels like they need a different identity. And like, Isaiah Collier, I mean, people thought he was going to be the number 1 pick.
Good luck.
And listen, now someone going to get them a steal in the teens or 20s now, because he might be Tyrese Maxey, so people, I hope people don't judge him too much, because it's like someone going to get a value and they might get a future all-star. So like, I know people like, oh, they look at his numbers. It's like, oh, well, look at the system and the team he's around. He's more of a top 10 pick than he is being in the, the 20s and all that. We know that, because he's seen it. We saw him especially you saw him, like you told me a lot of him in high school and all that. So like he could hoop. So, but Andy Enfield, like I don't think you could go to the Big Ten with him as your coach. I don't think you go into a new league and all that and know it's going to be, I mean, you're struggling in the Pac-12 right now, where
in a bad Pac-12.
A bad Pac-12. Like I said, there's teams that won't be going with you to the Big Ten that they're like now. And the team you just lost to in Oregon State just whooped that ass. So like there has to be a different identity. And like I said, it's just even if, and I talk about this with like the Florida schools, like especially in football, like why do the Florida schools struggle? Like even if you get the third tier Florida kids, you should be able to still have a good ass teams and all that. And I'm like, with California, even if you get the low 4 stars or high 3 stars, those are still good players, but I don't know. USC, good luck season. Because if you couldn't get it done with, I know, and we know what happened with Bronny, we know Isaiah was out, Boogie, a lot of guys are hurt and all that, but I mean, to lose they lost 7 in a row and got spanked in almost all of them, essentially. UCLA they lost to UCLA, who can't be no one. Arizona State, like some bad losses. It's one thing you lose to Arizona, but if you can't get it done with this team, I don't know. Good luck,
bro.
Good luck. That's not good.
They're currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 in the Pac-12 right now, which isn't as bad as I thought originally. Or excuse me, no, I'm completely tripping. I'm looking at the record right now, bro. Again, this is like the thing that gets me is not necessarily a lack of talent, it's a lack of development.
That's development. They have the talent. They have a Sweet 16 type of team. Like I thought if everything went right, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they can be a Sweet 16 team, but that is not the case.
They're 12th in the Pac-12 right now. 12th. They're at the very bottom. Under Oregon State right now. They're under Oregon State, Cal, and Arizona State. Bobby Hurley got a better record than them right now. Think about that. And they have zero NIL out there in Phoenix, if anybody didn't know. Stanford's above them.
Cal don't got no NIL either. Like, yeah.
I'm like, y'all can't be serious right now, bro. Again, like, y'all handing out. I've never been a pocket watcher type of dude, but the NIL deals that Isaiah Collier got, what? And rightfully so, by the way. Rightfully so. Mm-hmm. At the same time, again, when you have a player come into your program like that, it's up to you and your coaching staff to put the necessary talent around these dudes. And SC did not do that, especially because the dudes that they returned outside of Boogie Ellis didn't really have any major experience like that outside of Joshua Morgan too. But outside of that, Kajani Wright barely played last year. Ozai Sellers barely played last year. You lost Trey White to Louisville. You lost Drew Peterson to eligibility. So you knew, yes, I'm about to get a bunch of talent, but at the same time, it's young talent. So what do we always say? You got to put the experience around those guys. And it's like, to me, it's damn near like coaching negligence because you're just not doing your job. And so I hate to see it. I'm frustrated because I'm from out here, but at the same time, it's like, looking at the roster, when I first seen them play this year, I was like, oh, yeah, it's about to be a long season.
Yep. And unfortunately for them, it's over, and guys' stocks have dropped,
plummeted.
Like Bronny, people like, hey, he could be top 15 and all that. And now he's like, people saying undrafted. We'll see what he does. I don't know if he'll be in the transfer portal or he going to go to the draft. We don't know his situation. Isaiah Collier is up and out of there, so we'll see. But yeah, tough times in USC right now. The football team struggled, the basketball team struggling. But let's talk about a conference that, we haven't talked about too much, but we should because he showed the flowers. Is the Mountain West. Yep. They hoop right now. They got a lot of good squad, potentially 5 to 6 teams that could be dancing and all that. So we got Boise State, Utah State, New Mexico has been playing good basketball. And I say San Diego State feels like it just gets slept on, and they were in the national championship last year.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado State had a good start, and it feels like they've been slumping a little bit and all that, but still, what they've been able to do this season has been really good and all that, especially offensively, what they've been able to do, but just talk about the Mountain West and all that. So do we think they get 5, 6 teams going to the tournament right now?
I say 5 is safe. I think 6, maybe. And I honestly would lean yes on that, by the way, but I'm gonna just say maybe just for now because the whole net ranking stuff, that's a whole bunch of BS in my opinion. But at the same time, I mean, when you look at the Mountain West, I've always loved it. Of course, I'm from the West Coast. Like I grew up watching Paul George and Kawhi Leonard amongst a whole bunch of other guys. Those are just the main ones. But
it's crazy to think that those guys came out of those conferences and like not just what they do with the Clippers, but just like the stature in the league. Like those are Hall of Famers.
Exactly, right. And Paul George went to Fresno State. Like that's a bottom tier. With all due respect, that's a bottom tier school, right? But when you
How
look
was
at
Ball? Because he's a California. Well, was he that nice in high school? Was he that dude?
yeah, it's crazy. I actually graduated from his rival high school. So I went to
Oh,
Highland out
okay.
there in Palmdale, Highland High School. His school is Pete Knight, which is on the east side of Palmdale. And he was a late bloomer. My coach out to Coach Smith
Yeah,
out there, he actually told me about him. He said he was cool, but his senior year is when he really took off. And
yeah,
that's when the
yeah. I've heard him
offense
say that
caught
on his
in.
podcast. Like he didn't get recognized till he was a senior.
Yeah, and shout out to him. He made the right choice, right? He went to a school that believed in him, put the ball in his hands, and they maximized his talents. And now, like you said, he's a Hall of Famer, right? And he's one of the best forwards we've probably ever seen skill wise.
Mm-hmm.
And so this conference, man, I love it because even the bottom tier schools are competitive. Like San Jose State, shout out to Tim Miles. He was at Nebraska not too long ago. He's doing his thing. I know again they're struggling, but still a really good coach right there. But you look at the league right now, bro. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I say 5 gets in. I think 5 is the number. I didn't know Nevada's at 4-4 right now. Nevada's looked at as one of the better schools in the conference right now, but they're at 500 at 4-4. And again, so you look at Utah State,
Boise State, Utah State,
New Mexico, San Diego
Mexico's
State, and
in
Colorado State. So
Colorado State. So 5 definitely.
yeah, I think that 5 is solidified. I think that's probably going to end up was being just because again, I didn't think Nevada was 4-4 right now. Like they have a good game tonight. I believe they play Wyoming, I want to say. But just looking at this league, man, at the end of the day, I feel bad for y'all on the East Coast because them games start at like 11 o'clock your time.
I can't
But
do it, bro.
it's great basketball. If you ever get a chance to catch a replay, watch them games because again, you look at these teams like Boise State, for instance, they kind of started off slow in non-conference play, but I had a feeling they would pick it up. They lost a close game to Clemson, but you look at Max Rice, you look at Tyson Degenhart, you look at a Bugo, I believe, Busy. I don't even know how to say it. I'm not even gonna try and say his name, but he's really good. He's a forward. He's from San Diego. I watched him a couple different times. He was at Texas Tech originally, and then he transferred over to Boise State. He's really good, and they just play connected. They went into the pit, which is another tough venue to go into at New Mexico, and they beat New Mexico. And New Mexico, on the other hand, is another really good team, right? Richard Pitino, of course, the son of the great Rick Pitino, came over from Minnesota a couple years ago. He got Jalen House, who's Eddie House's son. Eddie House got more sons that are good, by the way.
I know,
You
right? He
got
got some
Jamal.
kids that are nice, yeah.
Yeah, you got Jamal Mashburn Jr. That says enough right there, right? Big time shooter. Nothing like his pops, but he's a big time shooter. And then my guy, Donovan Dent, man. Donovan Dent is one of the best point guards in the country that nobody talks about. He went to Corona Centennial, which has put a lot of great talented players out of that program, from Cedric Bearfield, who was at Utah, to a whole bunch of guys. Jalen Clark, I mentioned, went to UCLA. Your boy Jared McCain was there for a couple years. So Kylan Boswell as well. They played together while they were out there. They got talent. They just got guard play on guard play on guard play. They got Nelly Jr. Joseph, who was at Iona with Rick Pitino last year. And then what else I got to say about San Diego State? It feels like ever since our first episode, when I first talked about San Diego State, it's like they've been getting better and better and better. And I don't think this year's team is as good as last year's team was, just because, again, last year's team, you had like a million fifth-year seniors. But this team is really good still. Lamont Butler is a dog. Darion Trammell, big-time scorer. Micah Parrish is getting more integrated into the system, right? You got other guys too. Jaden Ledee was looking like a National Player of the Year candidate at a time. He still probably is. He's still probably top 10, probably closer to 5 and 10, right? So you look at them, they're going to be in the mix of things. They just got a big-time win over Utah State at the crib a couple of days ago, so they're always talented. And then I got to talk about this Colorado State team, because Isaiah Stevens, to me, is easily a top 5 point guard in the country. I don't care what anybody says. Nobody can convince me otherwise. He's from Texas, big-time player. And you got to give a lot of credit to Nico Medved, to their coach, because he's been offered a whole bunch of other jobs, and he declined them. He turned them down, and he stayed there. And, right, this is the dude that produced David Roddy, who, of course, we know was in the NBA he's in the NBA. He got drafted a few years ago. Yeah. Isaiah Stevens is next, right? And so you got him. Nick Clifford is his running mate, who's a big-time player, 6'6", can do everything. He can knock down shots, space the floor, get to the rim, make other plays for guys. Like, he's just complete dude. And this team, they dismantled Creighton early in the season. They played Creighton on a neutral floor, and Isaiah Stevens was just picking apart Ryan Kalkbrenner. If you know Ryan Kalkbrenner, that's not no easy task to do, and he just made it look easy. And that team, they play a fun brand of offense, and they get down the stance defensively, man. So this is a whole shout out to the Mountain West, man, because again, it's probably better than some of the high major conferences that we talk
Better
about.
than the ACC.
It might, and
And the
honestly, I
ACC?
can make a case it's better than the Big Ten too. I'm not going to, but I could, right? And it's definitely better than the Pac-12. That's not even a debate, right? So, I mean, just credit to all these schools again. Just coaching wise, again, Leon Rice at Boise State. You got Brian Dutcher at San Diego State. I mentioned Nico Medved. You got Jeff Linder at Wyoming. There's a whole bunch of just super, super good coaches in this conference. And hey, man, they look like they're going to be a formidable conference for a very long time in the future.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at the ACC right now and teams that might get in. So Duke, Carolina.
Yep.
Clemson's
Maybe.
they were a lock, but now they're on the bubble. They're 4-6 in conference play.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't know how they're doing right now against Carolina. I know they were up. All right, so they're up at 9.5, so they could blow that. You know, so Wake in.
I'm gonna say no, just because
No, right?
I thought they were, but I looked at their schedule today. They only have, I want to say they only have one road win in the ACC, and that was, I believe, versus Boston College.
Yeah, they beat Boston College.
I think they might have beat Syracuse. I think
home win versus Miami. Virginia they beat.
They lost at NC State.
They lost to NC State. They lost to Carolina. They lost to Pitt.
That loss right there is a dagger.
Yeah, they lost to Georgia early on. So I mean, they're a bubble team. But let's say they're out. So they're out. You know, Clemson's out. Virginia gets in, so that's 3. Virginia Tech, no.
It's 3,
Miami is on the bubble.
It's 3 because even Virginia's going to squeeze in. Virginia's in
because they're 9-3 in conference play, and 18-5 overall, and so I think they have a good enough resume to get in. So Duke, Carolina, not Tech, Virginia, Miami's the one that's kind of, but I think they'll. So let's put Miami in. That's 4 teams.
Mountain West is getting 5 in, as we stated.
Mountain West getting 5 with Nevada, right? Nevada possibly, if they can get a couple more wins, they have enough wins overall that they'll get in. So the Mountain West
is again Utah State, Boise State, New Mexico, San Diego State, Colorado State. Guaranteed 5.
Locks. So 5. Yeah. They have definitely 5 that we know they're going to get in, where the ACC has definitely 3.
Mm-hmm.
With maybe Miami if they win a couple more games, just to add a couple more W's, because they're 15-8 and 500 in ACC play. So they're better than a conference that is known for winning championships. Virginia, Duke, Carolina won championships in the last decade. So it shows you that the balance and all that overall, and just like how like these big conferences are kind of falling. Pac-12, Arizona. It was like it's Arizona and that's it, right?
End of story. Yeah.
End of story. Everybody was like, whatever. So it's like, you combine this week. If you combine the Pac-12 and the ACC, they might have 5, or definitely 4, maybe 5, and the Mountain West has 5 that will put a possibility of having 6. So it shows that conference is on the up. Are they losing any teams that are going anywhere? Because I'm getting confused with all these teams that are leaving and all that. Are they losing? No,
they're actually gonna get.
They're getting teams, right? They're getting the leftovers of the Pac.
Yeah. Oregon State and what? Stanford, Cal, or
I thought Stanford's going to the ACC.
Oh yeah. They're getting one of them teams, I believe. Hold on.
I know Stanford's going to the ACC, which is going to be hella weird to see some of those matchups. But
I know for a fact they're getting Oregon State.
I know Oregon. Yeah. Was it like Washington State too?
Yeah, hold on, I got it right.
I know some of the state schools got left out of the going to the Big 12. I mean the Big 10.
Okay, so it's just Oregon State and Washington State.
Okay, so just those 2.
So that means Cal and Stanford, I believe, are going to the ACC, which is crazy to say.
Cal and Stanford, yeah. It's gonna be weird to see, like,
Yeah, that's a lot of travel right there.
Syracuse versus Washington State, literally 2 schools on the opposite end of the coast. But Could be interesting next year. But yeah, it just shows like the ACC. I mean, we knew the Pac-12 was down, but the ACC being down, is disappointing and all that. But we'll see how they end and all that. All right. So let's do a few more things before we close out. Answer some Twitter questions, and then we'll talk about our squads to finish it out and all that. So let me open up Twitter and answer a few questions. All right, we got one. District of Buckets asks, what conference do you think will perform the best come tournament time?
Great question. Whew, great question.
Well, it's not the ACC or the Big 12. Well,
Yeah.
Carolina could do something. I think Carolina, because they have Baycott and all, they have veterans and all that. But I don't think, as a Duke fan, and we'll talk about Duke later, I don't think they're going to get much. I don't think they'll get far. And nobody else. I mean, Virginia,
I don't see
it. Do they have enough scoring? That's going to be the thing. Can they score enough?
It's the same
But
thing.
I don't know. It's
going
to
to
be the same issue.
They only have two scores, right? Two guys that can, no pun intended, go get a bucket, and that's Reese Beekman and Ryan Dunn. And Ryan Dunn, right? Outside of that, you got shooters, right? You got McNeely, and you got a couple other guys, but yeah. So to me, I feel like the easy answer is the Big 12. If I'm being honest, but I really only see. I mean, like it's a few. The easy answer is the Big 12, right? Because I know Kansas lost last night at K-State. Shout out to Jerome Tang and Tyler Perry. But you trust in Bill Self, right? Come March, Bill Self is the best coach, in my opinion, in the game right now. As much as I don't like to admit that, I just think that's a fact. And it's Kansas, right? You got Kevin McCullough, you got Hunter Dickinson. You got enough pieces. Even though they don't have the most depth, you got pieces. And then Houston, I've already told you, like I still feel, even though I know Houston got blasted at the Fog versus Kansas, I still feel like they're national championship contenders. They need to find some more scoring, but that defense to me is the best in the country by a wide margin.
It's the number one across the board, yeah.
And that speaks for itself. And they rebound the ball at a high level, pause, but they love to double team the post and make big mans make a decision, which I think is a genius defensive tactic, in my opinion. So if they can just get a little bit more scoring, I think they're going to be in the mix. And then after that, I trust Iowa State. I think Texas Tech might be good, make a run. So I'm going to go the Big 12. I look at the SEC. My concern with the SEC is we're looking at, right, Kentucky struggling defensively. It's bad. It's bad. It's undisciplined defense. It's not a bunch of buy-in right now. It's a whole bunch of guys that just are lost on that end of the floor, off the ball, on the ball, sticking to their assignments, sticking to the scouting report. So I'm kind of worried about them. Tennessee, yes, I know they went into Rupp and dominated. At the same time, that's not what we're accustomed to seeing with Tennessee, right? And yes, this Vols team can definitely go to the Final Four. If any team could beat the Rick Barnes curse, it's this team, right? Because you have Dalton Connect, who's probably, don't quote me on this, but he might be the best scorer Rick Barnes has had since Kevin Durant, right? He's on a run right now where I'm like, okay.
Yeah. That's not far off. Yeah. I mean, he's shooting out 2 to 3 at like a 40% clip on a high value too. So like, and he looking like he might be a lottery pick.
Exactly. He looks like a strict NBA player.
He looks like an NBA player. And we haven't seen that a lot from Rick Barnes because we know how it's kind of like he kind of brings guys back. But Dalton Connect looks like an NBA player. And Barnes has let Connect do his thing, and Connect has won them games on his own
single-handedly.
But
that's also the concern with them, is that your offense revolves around one guy.
Yeah.
That's why I'm concerned with them come NCAA tournament time, because all it takes, and obviously this is easier said than done.
Else can shoot in their team. That's it. He's the only one.
It takes one bad Dalton Connect shooting night, and Tennessee's out the tournament.
They're one and done. Yeah.
And you have a couple other guys. You got Vescovi, you got Zakai Ziegler, you got Jamal Meshack, you got Josiah Jordan James, you got Jonas Adu. So you have guys that can make his life easier. I'm just concerned with, I don't know how many shots per game he's taking, but I imagine it's somewhere between almost 20. At the same time, again, if he has one bad shooting night, it could be a wrap. And then you look at the rest of the SEC, Alabama, I don't trust. They just can't guard nobody. Like, they can score with anybody. They just can't guard for anything. Mississippi State's the complete opposite. They can guard anybody, but they can't score. You look at Ole Miss, I'm just not buying them. I'll be honest. South Carolina, as we mentioned, can make a run. They play at a very slow pace, which benefits them. But if a team gets a big lead on them and you're still playing that slow pace, you're not gonna be able to get back into the game. You know what I'm saying? So
Disappointment, Texas A&M, man.
Oh
That's
man,
that's a
yeah.
disappointment. We
How
had
we
them.
forget
I
about
mean, I
them?
thought they are shooting 26% from three.
Man, and we already talked about this, right? They're another team as great as Wade Taylor is, and I love Wade Taylor. He is a dog. At the same time, their offense, just like Tennessee, revolves completely around him. It's a do or die with Wade Taylor,
Yeah,
Tyrese Radford, and Henry Coleman. But if Wade Taylor doesn't have a good game, then they're not going to compete like that.
it's nasty. Some of the games I've watched with them, it's just bad.
It's
Like the
bad.
shots, like missing,
Yeah,
going. I think they had a game. They were like one of like it felt like 1 of 30 from three. Like they just missed every three possible.
exactly.
And I thought it'd be more balanced and all that, but they're atrocious. Like we talk about, like Michigan State at one point was really bad from three, but at least you guys picked it up.
Hmm.
Texas A&M has been bad all year. Like when you're in the bottom tier of 3-point shooting and you're with teams that we probably haven't even heard of before, that's bad. That's not a
Exactly.
recipe for success come
At
tournament
all.
time and all that. So like, it's they've had some really poor shooting performances. Right, they had a 3 of 30. 4 of 20,
It's bad.
3 24,
Tour
5
days.
of 30. It's just bad,
Bad. Bad.
bad, bad basketball this year. So yeah, they're another team that should have mentioned for disappointed because I thought they were going to win the SEC and Wade
Me
Taylor
too,
would be
bro.
player of the year, and
Complete
definitely not it
opposite.
this year. Complete opposite.
Yeah. Another team before we get ready to wrap up this last segment. Auburn can go on a run. I do
Mhm.
actually really believe in this Auburn team. I'm not gonna lie. Janai Broome, Katie Johnson, Aiden Holloway, Jalen Williams, Dylan Carwell. The defense and then the offense is very balanced. I think last year Bruce gave his guys too much free roam offensively, which he has a habit of doing. When they went to the Final Four with Jared Harper, that's what they did, right? They got up and down. Even with Sharif Cooper, you put the ball in Sharif Cooper's hands, you let him do whatever he want, which is fine. At the same time, it wasn't the same last year because Katie Johnson's not a point guard. He's like an undersized shooting guard. But now you've
Yeah,
got Aiden Holloway in. I know he's kind of been struggling. He's kind of been in that freshman, wall, but I think he'll bounce back from that. And I actually like this Auburn team a lot. I think they're balanced. I think they understand their system. Again, they guard, they rebound, and they just play well off each other. So I think if any team can go far, I think I trust Auburn more than anybody in the SEC. But to answer that question, though, I'd probably say it's going to be the Big 12, just because you have two giants. And
hmm
I could even put the Big East in there too. I'm not gonna lie, just because Marquette can break through this year. I know a lot of people don't like shocking in March, but we see UConn. UConn to me is clearly the best team in the country, in my opinion. And then even Creighton. Creighton was really upset at that San Diego State game last year. They were a foul away from getting to the Final Four. And
I
again, it's a
remember
complete
that.
different
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
Again, Arthur Kaluma's gone, Ryan Nemhard's gone, but Creighton can get back there. But I'm gonna go with the Big 12. I think the Big 12 is the way to go.
I'm with you on that. All right, we got I got Pablo. A couple questions here. What can
Mhm.
Houston do to ensure that their offense doesn't sputter in the NCAA tournament? And he also asked, "Do you guys believe in Purdue?"
Oh man, I'm gonna go with that Purdue question first because that's been a major topic of discussion recently. Purdue, do I believe in them? Yes. Do I believe in them to make a deep run? No. The reason is because again, you have Zach Edey, right? Zach Edey, just having him on the floor, even if he scores only 10 points, he's gonna foul out your entire front court.
Oh
That's
yeah,
just because of the attention he attracts. At the same time, though, I go back to what I just mentioned with Tennessee and Dawson Connect. They are living and dying with Zach Edey. It's not enough balance. Again,
that
ladies and
balance.
gentlemen, basketball is a team sport. It's a reason that at every single moment of the game, it's 5 people on one team and it's 5 people on the other team. And to beat Purdue, I don't think it's a tough recipe to beat it. I just think teams in the Big Ten lack it. And you have to have shooting, which a lot of teams kind of struggle to shoot, but you got to have shooting and you got to have multiple bodies that not can guard Zach Edey, but just can foul Zach Edey, make him earn everything at the free throw
Yeah,
line.
yeah.
Right. And he's going to miss them because he does have good touch, but I wouldn't say he necessarily has elite touch, which is crazy to say because he averages like 20 plus, I believe. But his touch isn't like elite, but it's good. And to me, The biggest concern is, if I'm just being honest, your backcourt looks like two middle schoolers. Your backcourt between Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, let's be honest, right? Lance Jones has been up and down, and he's been better recently. But the good thing about him being good is that you're not asking too much of Fletcher Lawyer. But Fletcher Lawyer, for those that haven't been paying attention, Fletcher Lawyer has not been that good this year. And that's my main concern, because he's their best shooter, in my opinion. And because he's not going, that takes a lot off of what Purdue does and makes them successful. And that's a concern for me. Again, they're getting through it in Big Ten play because they just have enough talent. But when the field opens up and the country figures you out and you're not in the Big Ten and you're getting ref differently and officiated differently, I worry about them. So I do trust in and believe in them, yes. But do I expect them to make a deep run? If I'm being honest, no. Because you look at their last 3 seasons, 2021, they lost to North Texas, Jaden Ivey's freshman year. The next year, his sophomore year, when he took off, they lost to St. Peter's with Shaheen Holloway. And then we all know what happened last year. They lost to Fairleigh Dickinson as a 1 seed. So history just says it's tough to believe. And then with Houston, I just think it's about taking the pressure off of Jamal Shead. And one thing we don't talk about enough is they lost Terrence Arsenault.
Yep, that was a big injury, man. He blew out his knee, right?
I believe he tore his Achilles. I could be wrong though, but I feel like nobody talked about it like that. I feel like it just happened, and then
it's kind of went under the rug. Like, it's kind of been. It's like, yo, that's a big injury. That's massive for them.
If Terrence Arsenault is on this team, just like how I mentioned Tremont Mark 20 minutes ago, Houston to me is the favorite to win it all, because Terrence Arsenault is a 6'6" wing, can guard, can shoot, can get his own bucket. He does a little bit of everything. And again, I feel like people just did not talk about the injury, and that's a major setback, but you're going to need other guys to step up. That's all it comes down to. You're going to need more from LJ Cryer. You're going to need more from Juwan Roberts. You're going to need more from Damian Dunn off the bench. So to me, again, it's just about taking that pressure off Jamal Shead, because he's been doing a lot of the heavy lifting offensively, if I'm being honest. Again, defensively, we know they're going to be in every single game, but it's all about Jamal Shead just making his life easier in any way that Kelvin Sampson can do so.
No, I'm with you on that. That Arsenal injury is a lot bigger than people, because like I said, not a lot of people talking about that, but that is definitely a big injury. And then one last question is our Vince Sachs. Will UCLA basketball make the tournament? Quick and easy, no. Sorry,
hell
man.
no.
That's your squad, but nah, easy. We won't even have to get into deep. No, it's not happening this year. You know, Mick might be another one. He might he might be going to. I heard Louisville for him too. Like, he might dip and all that. So yeah, but the easy is no. All right. So last topic before we sign off. Make sure to go to SeatGeek.com for your number one place for your ticket needs. $20 off first purchase when you use promo code Off the Ball Network, all caps. That is Off the Ball Network, all caps, for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek.com. Number one place for all your ticket needs. Download the app, go to SeatGeek.com, put the promo code Off the Ball Network, all caps, to get $20 off your first purchase. All right, let's cap it off. Talking about our squads. Let's go with Sparty first. How you feeling? Are we getting a little nervous as we get approaching March and all that? Do you talk to me? Talk to me about Sparty.
I'm feeling much better about my squad. I love where we're at right now. I still feel like it's a bunch of room for improvement, but we're on the up and up, right? We're currently sitting in 5th place in the conference. We're behind Purdue, Illinois, Wisconsin, and then we're tied with Northwestern for 4th, but they have the tiebreaker because they beat us in Evanston. Today we go to Minnesota and play at the Barn, which is not an easy venue at all to play in at the same time. But I like where we're at just because AJ Hogarth's playing better. We beat Michigan, which is not saying much, but that game solidified a lot for Jaden Akins, who had 7 threes in that game. Coach Izzo also got to a 700 win. Congrats to that, by the way. But you're starting to get a healthy Jackson Kohler. He's not playing a lot, but I think just having a legit post presence is good. And then the most important thing is we're getting a consistent Malik Hall. And so we got a nice stretch of games for the next couple weeks. Again, as I mentioned, we're at Minnesota in about 45 minutes, and then we host Illinois. And if we get that Illinois game, I'll feel a lot better about our season because, win or lose, I still feel we're fine. But to win that game would be humongous, right? Because Illinois is a legit threat. So we also get Northwestern again at the crib, we'll have a chance to see Boo Booey again, who's been heralded as a Spartan killer. But he's nice, and he put up 7 threes at Mackey Arena himself and carried them to overtime. But I love where my team's at right now. Again, I still feel like it's a lot of room for improvement. But at the same time, I think game by game basis, I think we're starting to put the pieces together. And as I mentioned earlier, and you mentioned a few minutes ago, our 3-point shooting is there and our defense is there. It's all about just making life easier on the other end. I don't want to live and die with just Tyson Walker. Tyson Walker is hella good, but he's 5'11", if I'm being generous, right? And there's nothing wrong with that.
If that.
It's just tough.
He's a New York point guard.
Yeah, he's gritty.
5'11", 6 foot, gritty guys. Like, he just plays like where he's from.
He makes it happen, which I love and respect. But again, I don't want it to just be the Tyson Walker show. He's willed us to games for sure. But again, you got to, especially going into March, you got to take that pressure off him. You got to make his life easier. You got to get some other sources of offense for that to happen. So I'm really happy with my squad. I think getting a road win tonight will help us out a lot because we struggle on the road. But shoot, so is damn near every other team in the country so far outside of Carolina. So it's time to just get some road wins and stack them up. But I think we're in a good place right now.
Yeah, and all the Ken Palm really likes you guys. I think they have you like top 15 and all that, so that helps you, and all that, and you get a couple wins and all that, it helps being Sparty. You could be in, like an 8-9 seed right now, and then once you guys get in, it's right. So and like you said, your 3-point shooting. I mean, we talked about you guys were in the tier that. With the schools that like have like 8 names in them, but you guys definitely improved on that. So, just roll off a couple more wins and then you'll solidify. Because right now it seems like you're right in not on the kind of bubble-ish, but I think right now you would be in. But you don't want any of those bad losses, and all that. But you guys are definitely improving on all that, especially from the perimeter shooting wise, and a couple guys helping your boy out. But talk about my Blue Devils. Tough loss versus the Carolina and all that. And I told you before the show, the lack of physicality with this team is troubling. I think it's going to really hurt them. Relying on Flip to just be the only physical player on the team is tough. The 4-guard lineup and all that is, when you're going against Carolina too, a physical team. I knew it's like, all right, this might be a rough night, and it was, and Carolina took care of business and all that late and all that and pulled away. But I don't know. Proctor is back. He's played a little better. McCain's played solid and all that, but it's just not having any front court depth at all. It's flip or bust. I just don't. I think it's when we get to March, if he's in any foul trouble, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Yeah. It's a wrap, and that's what's going to happen. It's because it's going to happen. They're going to face a team that's just going to get flip and foul trouble, or he's just going to have to do too much, and they're going to get bounced. And Mark Mitchell up and down and all that. It's just I don't know that Carolina That Carolina loss, it's Carolina and all that, but they've had a lot of close games. Clemson game was close. The Tech game was too close. It's just I don't like this team that's non-physical. Just everybody can just get a shot on them, get into the paint because they have no shot blockers. And Flip can't. He's probably thinking, I can't even attack. I can't even block a shot because we got no one else behind me. So I just think it's, they're going to be a tournament team. I think the offense, some nights can take over, especially against the bottom tier teams. But, Carolina put it to us, on everything. Just a bigger team. If we play another big team like that, kind of like what happened when we played Tennessee last year, we could be in some trouble. But like you said before, thank God Jeremy Roach is on this team, man. Thank God. I know a lot of people were crazy about him, especially when we got, when we knew Proctor's coming back and we're getting McCain and we're getting Foster, we're getting, these guys coming in. But I mean, he's him and Flip, they've saved, especially him in the backcourt. I mean, he's shooting the lights out the ball. I think he's shooting like crazy number, like 45% from 3, something like that. So, But I mean, continue to put out 4 guard lineups like this. I mean, that's not going to. This is not a recipe for success. So I think they'll get enough to. Obviously, I think we're obviously a tournament team. That's undoubtedly. But as far as success right now, come March, it's all about matchups. Obviously, in college basketball in March, but I don't know this team, and I've told you this, like, bro, this. I wasn't crazy about this team this year. Wasn't crazy about this team this year, but
You did say that.
I wasn't crazy about it, and I don't know if I'm overreacting to the Carolina game, but like if you want to win a championship, you got to beat those type of big teams, Kansas, Carolina, Houston, those type of teams you're gonna have to beat if you want to win a chip. I just don't see it unless they get hot from 3, which we can't shoot the 3, and I think that's going to be you're going to live and die by the 3, and hey, you could get it could one game, couple games, but throughout a whole term, we'll see. But I don't know how you feel about them.
I'm happy Jeremy Roach came back.
That's exactly right.
Imagine
Imagine if he wasn't there. Like, imagine because we would just have a bunch of youngins just throwing the ball around, and it would look sloppy, and we'd be a lot worse. We might be in the bubble right now. Jeremy Roach and especially Flip too. Like those two have carried this team, and the reason why we're even like, at what 16-5. So if it wasn't for those two, man, we'd be in trouble. We'd be in trouble. And like you said before, we talked about not having that wing that you could rely on. And it's kind of weird because you think about Duke and they've had elite wings, and exactly. We see a lot of the wings in the pros right now who are all-star NBA players, and they just don't have that guy. Flip can do it, but having that guy in the wing, it makes life so much easier, and they don't have now. Next year could be a different story when Flag comes in, but this year, they don't have that guy. Mark Mitchell has moments, but then sometimes it's like he looks lost, on the perimeter, especially on the perimeter.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think they're kind of lacking those physical traits. I think they have enough skill, guard-wise, and of course with Flip just being the ultimate mismatch in certain situations. But I kind of feel like you're also too dependent on Flip, just because you need that defensive big man. Y'all just don't really have a defensive big man like that, bro. Like that's
we don't. There is none. There's non-existent.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a big reason why Armando feasted this past weekend, because he wasn't seeing nothing back there, with all due respect. And so I think your guard play and Flip alone can carry you a long way. It's just about, again, as we all know, come tournament time, it's just about matchups. And I think in certain matchups you guys can exploit, and I think in the same breath, those teams can exploit y'all weaknesses too. So it's just about that chess match that Shire decides to pull out, right? So we'll see. I think Duke will be fine again. You're in the ACC. You're going to play in some tough venues, but
thank God we're in the ACC this year, especially because it is. We won games that we probably, if the ACC was just a little bit better, we would lose. But yeah, thank God we're in the ACC this year because just feasting off the bottom tier teams. I don't even think we played. Have we played Louisville yet?
Oh man, I
think get a couple wins off them.
I think y'all played at Louisville. I want to say I could be wrong though. But
yeah, so like,
yeah, nonetheless, like you guys will be fine, bro. It's just, to me, it's more so these last few games in the conference. It's about not just winning, but how you guys look in those wins, right? That's more important than anything. And so we'll see how it plays out. But
we haven't had a dominant win, like a true, like we beat Pitt, but then they come to our crib and they beat us.
Yeah,
like whatever we did versus them don't matter because they beat us at the crib. So we got to see. We got to see. I forgot we played Louisville. Right? We play Louisville late February, then end of the season. I want to see how they play. Honestly, how they play against Virginia is going to be crucial. Team like defensive orient, and then obviously the end of the season when Carolina comes to the crib.
Y'all go to UVA?
We're at home.
Okay,
we're home versus UVA. So how they play against, because UVA has a good defense and all that. So we'll see. We're gonna see how they play against the top tier teams, and not that there's a lot of top tier teams in the ACC. There's only one, but we'll see what happens, how they play. But it's just the reliance on two guys is something that it feels like it's JJ Redick and Sheldon Williams. It's like you just rely on two guys, and like that could take you far, but as you see, that duo didn't win championship, all that. So, it kind of reminds me of that in a kind of a way, but and then just like a bunch of pieces, then just if they don't hit, and because I remember JJ Redick not having, having I forgot who he played. Was it probably? I think it was against you guys, and he just got shut down, and it was a rep. But we'll see what happens. I'll say
the best thing.
Some cupcakes coming up. Got some cupcakes going up. Hopefully, some guys step up and all that. Just get their confidence going as we head into a little bit of a tougher, towards the end of the season.
I just say to wrap up, the best thing though is that Jared McCain's been playing really well. Lately.
He's been. I hope. Yeah, he's been.
That's the hope right there. That's the great hope right there. And as long as he keeps playing like that, I think you'll start to get it rolling out there. And I almost said Chapel Hill, but in Durham.
Oh yeah. And Proctor's getting healthy too. So maybe he starts to really flow. He has been playing good and all that. Caleb Foster's had moments too, but it's just like, we need, the guys that we needed to step up just have it this year. So, but we'll see what happens with Duke. But that's a wrap. Forget It Bucket Podcast. Another one in the books. We got a lot of great basketball coming up. We're going to try to get you another one this weekend. But as always, another great one in the books, Kev.
You already know, man. As always, salute to everybody at Off the Ball Network, man. Y'all follow me at Kevin Mufasa 7, KEVOOMUFASA 7. Enjoy these games. We got a lot of great games tonight, the rest of this week, and probably Saturday too. But as always, appreciate it, Prezi.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can follow me at Off the Ball Pod on Twitter, Instagram. Make sure to follow the Off the Ball Network on YouTube. Like, subscribe. Trying to get to 500. So make sure we got a lot of great content. We got the trivia stuff going on. I think I'll play y'all next. So I can't call you if I need a college basketball question. So I got to find somebody else. Got to find another connect. We got obviously stuff going for the Super Bowl this week. Super Bowl week. We're doing a bunch of different types of shows. Best commercials, best quarterbacks, best teams, most likable teams, and all that, and just talking about just storylines and everything leading up to the Super Bowl this Sunday. Obviously, Get a Bucket Podcast. We got Off the Ball Podcast. We got Up in Flame. We got a whole bunch of dope shows, betting shows, all that stuff. Make sure to check it out. We got a lot of good content going on and some potential big news coming up. So make sure to check us out. OffTheBallNetwork.com. We got Omar killing it with articles and stuff.
Facts
and all that. So make sure to check that out. Support us. Follow us on Twitter, the network on Twitter, wherever you can find and subscribe and all that. But make sure to subscribe to Get a Bucket Podcast on Spotify, on iTunes, wherever you get your podcast. We're going to try to get another show in this week and all that as we ramp up as March is approaching. It's almost here.
Sir.
It's almost here. So we're going to get a lot of good basketball coming up. So make sure you're checking it out. Check us out. And be well, be safe, take care. Peace out.
Peace.